Shigeru Miyamoto talks retirement. What were the top 15 most downloaded Switch games of 2023? And a Banjo Kazooie sequel on the horizon? It's the LP Podcast. Hello and happy Tuesday. It's the day of the week where I do more talking about Nintendo games than playing them, but Nintendo's the topic all the same. Today, we start off talking about the headman, or rather one of the headmen, one of the executives at Nintendo, almost synonymous with the company itself, Shigeru Miyamoto. He's been involved with a number of projects. You're probably well familiar with his name, but if you've played a Zelda game, indeed, a Zelda game, a Mario game, Donkey Kong, well, his fingertips were all over that. Thankfully, we can start the year off with good news. He announces that he has no plans to retire from the gaming industry. He's taken on a supervisory role within Nintendo and has been involved in projects outside of video games as of late, but I don't think that is indicative of any large-scale changes taking him away from the video game franchises we know and love. Obviously, Nintendo has done very well, especially in the last year, launching the theme park and the movie, the Super Mario Brothers movie, and Miyamoto is definitely going to be involved in continuing to scale those efforts, but may we all breathe a sigh of relief to know that he's going to stick around with our favorite IPs. And speaking of favorite IPs, people decided to make a number of purchases relating to them here. Yahoo's compiled the top 15 best-selling Switch games as far as downloads on the Nintendo eShop, and they have them ordered here 1 to 15, which is not necessarily the most intuitive way to do it. So we'll look at it from bottom up. Clubhouse Games 51 Worldwide Classics brings in the rear, or, I mean, is rear even the right way to describe it? Probably not, since it's 15th best-selling. Coming up, we'll see where we can get some familiar faces. Pokemon Violet 13. I know people have had some qualms with that. Interesting to see Violet on here and Scarlet not. Fascinating. Hey, people like purple. Number 12, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. This is due in no small part, I'm certain, to the release of Tears of the Kingdom, which you will see all the way near the top at number 2. Traditionally, when a heavily anticipated sequel gets released, whether this is a video game, a film, or anything, its predecessor also sells pretty well. But the fact that Breath of the Wild was able to crack nearly the top 10 in sales, pretty impressive, to be honest with you, all things considered. Monster Hunter Rise, 11, Fire Emblem Engage, number 10. A game that I had a lot of fun with. I've mentioned this a time or two before, but I have still not yet finished it. I've got like 50 hours in it, and it is not done. I should probably get on that. The game I did beat, however, was Super Mario RPG, cracking into the top 10. Overcooked 2, number 8. Serena, my wife, and I put in a number of hours onto that. In fact, we streamed it about a month ago as well. Great game, and we were also one of the downloads there. Splatoon 3, number 7, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, continuing to sell well nearly a decade into its lifespan. Dragon Quest Monsters cracks open the top 5, surrounded by Mario Wonder, Pikmin 4, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and then the Watermelon Suika game. Fascinating. So I've been responsible for almost all of these in some capacity. I'm sure you have too, which is, then no surprise why they're all in the top 15, huh? Amazing to be in the top 15 sales. People gotta, purchase them. Oh, but they're all great games in their own right, and I look forward to many more of the same. And another great game that's coming in 2024 specifically is Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. Now, of course, as we all know, it's not a new game. It's a remaster, and we're all very excited for it nonetheless, but it was recently given an ESRB rating. I'm not necessarily certain that it's super significant because realistically, how much would change to change the rating, right? It was already rated E for everyone when it released on the GameCube in 2004. So, what are they gonna? They're gonna give Mario a weapon. There's gonna be blood everywhere. Children will be crying. It's going from E to M. No, it's E. It's E again. E for everyone, and that's a good thing too because it's a game that everyone needs to enjoy. Another game that everyone did enjoy was Banjo Kazooie. All right, and rumors are swirling this week, potentially about a sequel being greenlit. Now, there have already been sequels to Banjo Kazooie, right? Banjo Kazooie was the first in an otherwise, I don't know about large gaming sector, but there's a few games, right? There's Banjo Kazooie, Banjo Tooie for the N64, then Grunty's Revenge, Nuts and Bolts, and then Banjo Pilot as well. So while only the first two games were on like Nintendo home consoles, there is hope potentially for revival. We shall see. Of course, nothing has been confirmed. These are only online rumors, but they were first dispelled by a man called Nate Drake. No, not the character. And he has developed a reputation as a reliable source, apparently, on the internet, having produced leaks and rumors in the past that have been fruitful. So that combined with Phil Spencer, the head of Xbox, unfortunately also Microsoft owns Rare, we know that, but Phil Spencer acknowledging the cries and demands for another Banjo-Kazooie game. We shall see. My only worry, and I mean, this is probably a selfish worry, is that the game will be solely developed for Xbox, for Microsoft systems. I think of Banjo-Kazooie as like synonymous with Nintendo. Like they have that same sort of vibe, and whatever, produces the next Banjo-Kazooie game, however that gets to market, is fine, ultimately. But selfishly, I want it on a Nintendo's console. I do. And when you talk about, Banjo-Kazooie, it's almost difficult to not talk about our next guest today. And with over 200 streams this year, today's guest is not only a stalwart of the hobby, of the career today, but has been so for the greater part of the last decade and a half. He's Josh Jepson. Thanks for joining me, man.
Hi. Yeah, no problem, man. A decade and a half. I came to that realization on stream last night. I was like, wait a minute, my first YouTube channel was made 16 years ago.
Isn't that crazy? That is crazy. How have you managed to stay sane amid the changes throughout all of that?
Deep meditation.
Really? No, seriously.
Yeah, actually, meditation. I started meditating in 2019, and it changed my life. Actually,
that's awesome.
Yeah, just some deep breathing and just centering yourself, and it's helped in a lot of cases. But that's not the only thing. I don't know. It's been honestly rocky in a lot of ways. So you have a bit of a roller coaster.
The ups and downs of content creation. I'm sure you've seen every end of that spectrum. But
definitely.
To kick things off here, I suppose, Josh, if you could let's set content creation to the side for a second. Where did your love of gaming culture, etc., how did that first originate?
Yeah, so, I was very young when I got into games in general. I played stuff before I even owned my own games, but the first game I ever truly got into was Pokemon Red and Blue, of course. It was the ripe time for me. Of course, I was 4 years old at the time, so it took me a few years to get into it, and it wasn't really until Pokemon Crystal that my love of gaming and Nintendo sort of manifested itself. But yeah, and it just kind of continued from there, and I spent pretty much my entire childhood focused entirely on games. We didn't have a ton of money when I was growing up, and so instead of electing to get a toy or something or whatever here or there, I would negotiate with my parents to try and get a video game. And I didn't really participate in any music or any movies or any of this other entertainment. I was just focused solely on video games my entire childhood. And it just kind of grew from there, I guess. Yeah. And I remember there was one distinct thing that I remember from my childhood that I thought was very funny. My grandparents would always tell my mother, hey, stop making him, stop letting him play video games all the time. He's got to do something meaningful with his life eventually. And my mom was she kind of half joking, but she's oh, well, he's going to make money playing video games one day.
She knew.
And,
she knew.
Yeah, she knew. My mom predicted it, so more power to her. She really like facilitated my love of games.
That is awesome. It's great to have that sort of support system. And I mean, I'm sure your grandparents meant well, right? They're just raised in a different generation. Quick question on that.
Yeah.
Have you had a chance to maybe say like, hey, grandma and grandpa, look at me now?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I've definitely done the like, like she told you so kind of thing.
That
like,
that
look
is
at me now.
awesome.
What am I doing now?
Well, because it's
And
so
they
cool,
They
man.
still don't understand it.
The thing is, like, you not only do it for a career, right, but you participate in all sorts of charity events, and you really
Yeah.
bring a lot of good to the world through your passion, which is awesome.
Well, thank you. Yeah,
So-
I love what I do.
So growing up, in the mid to late 90s, I'm also a 90s baby. We're probably right about the same age. Also starting with
Yeah.
Pokemon Red and Blue, which is awesome. What are your thoughts on how it's changed from then versus now?
Oh man, I think Pokemon is maybe the best example because they're still going today, right? And it's very different than it was. I think, there was, and I think overall, like today's gaming is very good. You get a lot of games and a lot of them are high quality. I think this year, especially with like all the layoffs or whatever, that's like something that's very like a point of contention. But looking back at when I was a kid playing games, the magic of it all was still there. Like I feel like that's something that I've lost a little bit over the years. It wasn't until like Tears of the Kingdom coming out, that I got really excited for a game coming out. And even though we have all these amazing games and they're all really high quality, a lot of them anyway, especially Nintendo stuff, I feel like that culture, at least for me, around games has not recaptured the magic of games coming out and new games and like going and playing a demo at Walmart or something, craning your neck back and playing the demo that's up on the so like I don't know, I think it's just very different.
That's fair. No, that's completely fair. Do you think that's perhaps influenced by your career choice? Like, does maybe conflating fun and work have an impact there?
Definitely. Yeah, that's been a big struggle for me over the years, actually, is the finding the balance between doing like a stream or a video on a game and just playing it on my own. There's been a lot of cases over the years where I've started up a game and I'm like, this would make a great Let's Play. Or this would make a great video, or this would make a great stream, and then I just stop playing it, and then it never becomes a stream or a video, and I just never end up playing that game.
Oh, goodness.
So like there's that, and then like just like sort of taking the enjoyment out of it, and especially since it's it's been my career and I've relied on it for income. Finding the balance between just making everything fun and also making enough money to pay rent and buy food. I think that like trying to take it really, really, really seriously had like diminished my enjoyment of games for a long time. But I've gotten a lot better about it, and I play a lot more games off stream. I pick specific kinds of games that I like to play off stream that don't work as well for me doing a stream or doing a video, and I just play those casually and try to make time for that so that I can still enjoy gaming.
Yeah, the great big hurdle to overcome, fun in gaming. Well, I mean, it's interesting you say that, and I think it reflects pretty well upon what I've heard from other people. Like, when your fun is your work, people say, yeah, do something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. But at the same time, what you do for fun becomes, oh, this is how I look at it through like a work lens. And I think it's awesome.
And
Number
also,
one.
like, I think that like doing something that you love as your work is a ton of work. Like being able to do something that you love really takes a lot of effort to make that work. So
that's a good point. So you dive into it more, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of nuance to it for sure that a lot of people don't really think about. Just a lot of behind the scenes
perfect
stuff.
job.
And then it always gets boiled down to, oh, you play video games for a living. Well, you're not exactly. Like, you know, like
you are
30 minutes to 3 hours a day is spent maybe on video games. And then the rest of the time is like the social media and the thumbnails and the metadata and the networking and the sponsorships and the emails and the, you know, it's all the other stuff.
No, absolutely, man. It is a business where you are not only the CEO, but you're the marketing department, you're the sales department, you're the PR department. You gotta wear many hats.
Yeah, graphic design, like that's something that a lot of people like. They don't pick up on that, like that aspect of it, and so they pay people to do graphic design for them. And I do all my own graphic design because I like doing it, and so that's like something that I've another hat that I've added to the to it. So,
do you employ anyone to do anything, or is it all 100% you?
Every once in a while, I will commission like emotes for Twitch or no, that's pretty much it. I think that's the only thing I've ever really that's the only thing I ever really pay anybody to do is emotes for Twitch.
Wow.
And not even all the time. So mostly like 99% of everything that I do on my own. Yeah.
Incredible, man.
Because I love the process.
Well, that's good. I think that's probably what separates, you know, the greats, someone like yourself, from like a hobbyist, perhaps. And I mean, with that in mind, how did it get to that? Because you had to start somewhere. It had to move from I'm playing games for fun to I'm creating content for work. What was that transition like?
Yeah, I was pretty young when I started doing it. Like I said, my first YouTube channel was made in 2007, and I would have been like 14. And so I wasn't like looking for a career, and that wasn't even a thing. Like you couldn't do that at the time. I was just like bored and trying to figure out something creative that I could do. And yeah, I mean, a lot of my first videos on YouTube were just like filmed with a camcorder, like some like there was a few times where I made like music videos where I would just film bits and pieces of gameplay and put them to music. And so it was like this early thing where I kind of wanted to try video editing, and I wanted to try graphic design, and I wanted to try all these things, and YouTube just naturally became like the outlet for that. And I was just bored. I was a bored teenager and wanted to do something fun.
When did it I guess swell? Were you just slowly ramping up and hey, wow, I'm getting ad revenue? Or was there like a defining moment where you had to decide, hey, I'm pursuing this, or I'm, looking for other methods of employment?
Yeah, there was a moment when I realized that this could become my job. In 2010, there was a point where YouTube networks started coming up that would allow you to monetize gaming content, because before that, YouTube didn't accept gaming creators into the partner program. It was impossible to monetize gaming content. And then there were these YouTube networks that were popping up that were signing on gamers that had extra resources that would allow for them to be able to monetize that stuff. And so I, at 17 years old, signed on to be a part of one of these YouTube networks and ended up making my first ever paycheck playing video games. And that was kind of like a moment for me. I was like, if I really took this seriously, I think I could turn it into something. At the time I appeared on, it was the same year that I appeared on the Runaway Guys YouTube channel. And they were just like a huge success in comparison to where I was at the time. And so the combination of that plus being able to monetize my videos, doubling my subscriber count overnight, from being in those videos for the, being their first guest, I just saw this opportunity and started rolling with it and just seeing where it would go. And over the next couple of years, I ended up moving out of my parents' house at 19, after a year and a half of really trying to make it work. And fast forward to now, and I'm still somehow doing it. I don't know how that happened.
A testament, dude, to your talent and your consistency over the years, no doubt.
Thank you.
So, I mean, it's one thing to see an opportunity, right? But a lot of people will have this sense of apprehension or fear, perhaps, around pursuing something like that. You went for it.
Yeah.
And you made it happen, and that's super cool.
I didn't have anything to lose. Like I wasn't super happy where I was at. I didn't really have any plans. And I was coming up to the end of high school, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. And to have an opportunity to sort of like appear at a time when I didn't really have anything else going on, it just kind of worked out perfectly.
What was Plan B?
I'm grateful for it.
If I may be so bold.
Plan B?
Yeah.
I did formulate a Plan B, a couple of Plan Bs. The first Plan B was if it didn't work out, I would go to a trade school and become an electrician.
There we go.
And for no reason other than like I thought that sounded like a good job that would last, and wouldn't disappear on me suddenly. Because I've always been thinking in the back of my head, like, what if this just all goes away suddenly? People just stop being interested in watching YouTube or Twitch or whatever. And so that was my first Plan B. My other Plan B was like I was gonna, once I moved out of my parents' house, I moved to Seattle, all the way from Maine.
Wow.
And I was like, I was gonna do that. I did the whole thing where like take a gap year between high school and college, and to figure out where I wanted to do college. And things just kept kind of growing from there. So I ended up not doing that at all. But that would have been what I did. Yeah. Some sort of trade school or go to college and figure it out from there. I've always been interested in psychology. So like if I was to go to like a proper college, like that would have been something that I pursued, I think.
That's super cool. I mean, electrical work and psychology are very different sides of the coin, but
I don't know.
I can see how they both be appealing.
Interests.
Well, that's good. It's good to have a diverse slate of interests, man. And and with that, I suppose, like deciding to pursue what is now your career, how have you been able to stay so consistent? How have you been able to, not catch the lows and sink too far into them?
I really haven't. Well, honestly, like I personally, from my perspective, I haven't even been that consistent. And I have fallen just down to the lows, like in what was it, 2021, I did the bare minimum that I needed to do to pay rent. Like I was doing very, very little. I didn't really make any YouTube videos. I was streaming enough, to make enough money to do that, to pay rent. And this followed, 2020 with the pandemic, and like I ended up in the hospital at the end of 2020, and it was all very dramatic. And so I took the entire year of 2021 to just kind of like relax and try not to do too much. And there's been a few times like that over the years where I've dipped for 6 months to a year and just haven't really done a whole lot. And I'm always able to pull it back because I really do love what I do, and I want to be able to continue doing it. So when it gets to the point where it's about to like fail, I take a hard look at it, and I'm like, okay, well, what do I need to fix here, and actually put the work in. So I mean, that's just my perspective. Like I you've said that I have this consistency and this whatever, but like and that's very very kind of you to say, but honestly, it's not that clear cut.
For sure.
It's been a lot harder than that, but
I appreciate the transparency, Josh. I really do, because on the surface, you see someone who's been able to do something like this for as long as you've done it, and I guess it's my fault for assuming consistency when it can be varied right throughout the years.
I mean, yeah. No, I mean, I appreciate it. I think what you're trying to say, I mean, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, what you're trying to say is a consistency of like, quality and the consistency of enjoyment of it, rather than like necessarily the consistency of creating stuff.
That makes sense, and I think part of it too, at least as a viewer, you've got a certain consistency in who you are as as a person, as a creator, and I think that's something that I, alongside many other people, probably really admire.
Well, that's very kind of you to say. I do pride myself in being very honest and real with people. Like I don't like to. I don't want to pretend to be anybody else. I think a lot of creators fall into the trap of like playing a character in a way, and I almost fell into that, but I sort of moved away from it because there was a time when I had this sort of like online persona of being a bit of an asshole, and it wasn't like too bad, but there was a lot of cases where I would meet fans at conventions and they'd be like, wow, you're a lot nicer than I thought you would be. So I noticed that, and I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to be myself and be honest.
That's hilarious. With this, I suppose, like outward-facing honesty, it's got to be somewhat difficult when things are, as you put it, when you're experiencing those lows. So how do you balance perhaps the poor mental health days with that open and honest policy?
Yeah, it's that has been especially hard for me because when I go on my stream or do a video, I really want it to be funny and upbeat and interesting, and when I am feeling down or whatever, I am just honest about it. I'm like, I'm not feeling great today, we're just gonna chill, especially on stream. That's easier to do than making a video, but
that makes sense.
It's been not easy when things are not going great, but I almost look to it as a bit of an escape sometimes. So that is my happy place. I come onto my stream or do a video or I play a game, and that's my happy place. So it ends up in some ways improving the mental health rather than messing it up. But sometimes there's a clash and it just doesn't work out. And there's definitely been times over the years where like I've ended stream after 10-15 minutes because I can't do it, and then just delete the VOD, and then people don't notice that stuff because like not that many people like were there at the beginning or something, and it's just like the VOD is gone, so nobody ever sees that stuff. But
how do you I suppose how do you address mental health specifically? And I know this is perhaps taking a slight left turn, but I know that the content creators, just from the people I've spoken to, there's this sort of, I don't know if it's stigma or something, but you care about how what you're producing is perceived or received, and sometimes it can be disheartening to not get the same out of it that you put into it. I just wanted to know if that was at all true in your experience.
Yeah, definitely. I experience that regularly, where like, especially because, again, if I'm having a bad mental health day, and I just have to be honest about that with people, that's the only way that I can get through it, actually, is if I just tell people like, oh, I'm not having a great day today, or I'm not feeling well today. It's the only way I can get through it is by saying that out loud. Instead of trying to pretend and push through it, like I find that makes a worse quality product. Because if I say it out loud and I tell people how I'm feeling, a lot of people can relate to that first and foremost. And then because I've said it out loud and just moved on from it, I find that actually turns the mood around more often than not. But if things are like not, if the quality of the stream or the videos goes down because of my mental state, a lot of that will carry over afterwards, and I will think about it until the next time I do something, because I want it to be really good. And it's hard to manage that. Like, I don't really even know actually how I manage that, because I still struggle with that. Like, almost every time I do a stream that isn't quite up to snuff, I kind of dwell on it a little bit too much, and I try not to, but and a lot of times like meditation will help with that, or just kind of centering yourself and not trying to overwhelm yourself after the fact. But it's not easy.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I mean, it's a very human thing to care, whatever it is that you care about. So I think that it's inspiring that you're so transparent, Josh. So I appreciate that. Number one. With that in mind, if you were, I suppose, to talk to a younger Josh, knowing how you have, progressed over the years, the things you've learned, what you've gone through, what would be a piece of advice you would give, Josh or some nondescript other creator just trying to, do their thing?
Focus on the fun factor of whatever it is that you're doing. Make sure you're having fun and everybody involved is having fun. And however that means for you, I think that so many creators, especially just beginning creators, focus a lot on the numbers, I'm not getting enough viewership or I'm not making enough money or this or that. Just focus on the fun factor before anything else. I think that is something that I did do before money was involved, and once the money started coming in, that the focus did shift towards I need to be making money so that I can pay rent, and I have since pulled back from that and started focusing more on the fun factor of it. And so if you have a stream that's got particularly low viewership, or a stream where you're not making as much money that time or whatever, just don't even think about it. Just don't focus on it. I know it's hard to not focus on that stuff, especially when you got the whole Twitch dashboard and all the analytics and the numbers and they're flashing in your face, but if you just sit down, you focus on saying something that people want to listen to, saying something that you want to listen. I think that's the other side of this, is a lot of creators do not watch back their streams or watch back their own videos, and do that. Definitely do that, because you need to be able to watch your own stuff. You need to be able to. If you can't watch your own thing, you need to change something about it, because it's not fun for you. If that's the case, and so make something that's fun for yourself and fun for the people that are watching, which I know is just a very vague statement to say, but
I think it's great.
Josh. It comes in different forms, so
focus on the fun. Straight to the point, and it makes the most sense, because first and foremost, it is a hobby, right? For 99% of people, make it a hobby. So speaking of fun, I personally thought that 2023 was a relatively fun year for Nintendo. We briefly talked about Tears of the Kingdom, but then you also had the Mario movie, Pikmin 4, Mario Wonder, several remakes. What did you think of the year?
Oh, dude. The best year for Nintendo since 2017. Seriously. Maybe even better than 2017. It actually mirrored, if you look at the game releases, it mirrored the releases that came out in 2017, so the Switch launched, right, and they had Breath of the Wild and they had Mario Odyssey, and this year, it's Tears of the Kingdom and Mario Wonder, and there's so many, it mirrors it so much, and I think that they are really trying to push the end of the Switch's lifespan right now. They're really trying to see to go out with a bang, I think, and they're killing it. Honestly, they really are.
It's really incredible.
I loved Pikmin 4. The Mario movie is the fact that the Mario movie is the top animated movie of all time. That's insane. I could not have predicted that. I thought it would be mid at best. Both from a writing and whatever standpoint, but also from just not as many people. I didn't think as many people were going to go see that movie as they did.
No.
Nintendo's killing it.
People turned out for the Mario movie, both Nintendo fans as well as the general public alike. It was inspiring.
I know.
And it clearly,
I love to see it.
Clearly inspired Nintendo, because apparently as of a month ago, they've green-lit production on a Zelda movie. I understand.
Yep.
You are a huge fan of the Zelda franchise. What were your thoughts?
I think it's a very interesting direction to make it live action. I think that's not something that I personally want, and I can see that a lot of the Zelda fandom also was hoping for maybe an animated movie, but it's so early and we know nothing, so it's hard to say. Maybe it could be really good, but I'm going to go into it with very, very low expectations and hope to be surprised.
Cautiously optimistic. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Josh, I am whatever the opposite of cautiously. I am gung-ho, extraordinarily optimistic at how this has gone. So thank you so much for joining me. I wanted to give you this opportunity to tell the people what you're up to, where else they can find you. They probably already know. But what are you working on?
Yeah, so I can be found at Josh Jepson on Twitch and on YouTube. I have a couple different YouTube channels, but my primary one, Josh Jepson, is where I do all my gaming stuff. I'm mostly active on Twitch, of all things, and currently I'm working through Pokemon Infinite Fusion, the fan game that you fuse Pokemon. Super, super cool. And I'm starting to formulate big plans for the next year. You know, we're kind of wrapping up 2023, and I'm just sort of finishing off projects that I was working on and getting the next thing going. And I've got some big plans. In January, I'm going to be doing a Zelda Twilight Princess like super hard mode with the Ganondorf amiibo. It's like 4 times the damage plus hard mode, so there's no heart spawns. So I'm going to be doing that. That's my yearly thing that I do. It's the 3rd year I'm doing that. So lots of fun stuff coming up. So follow me on Twitch. And yeah, I think that's it.
You can find all of the links to those below. Josh Jepson, thanks again.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Again, many thanks to Mr. Josh Jepson for joining the show today. Dude is awesome. Always a great time. I'd love to talk to him again. Fingers crossed. Anyways, moving on to the final segment of the show. I know we talked about Shigeru Miyamoto earlier. We'll talk about him again. I mean, can you blame us? He put out a little bit of an interview, or conducted an interview, and one thing particularly made headlines. I wanted to make something weird. Now, a lot of people in the forums and the Reddits that I was on kind of took that sentence and ran with it, almost as if they didn't read through the full extent of the interview. So when he said that statement, he was talking about his initial desire or initial decision to go work for Nintendo in the 80s. At the time, Nintendo was not yet, the stalwart they were. They were not even really a video game producer. They were dabbling more so in arcade games and stereoscopic light weapons. And he having just graduated university, alongside his peers, having done pretty well, wasn't necessarily certain where to go. Other people were going to car manufacturers. Other people were going to top-tier electronics manufacturers. And he, as the headline implies, wanted to make something weird. So he chose the toy company / arcade company that was Nintendo. And we're also very thankful for it. And I think, candidly, just to be completely honest with you, he has made some weird things. We're also very thankful for it. Oh, goodness gracious. And I am also very thankful for you. This has been LP, your host. I do this podcast every single Tuesday, and I have a lot of fun. So, with that said, thank you so much for watching. I do hope that you enjoyed yourself, and I hope that I get to see you again next week.